Bitcoin is back over 60K and sentiment is up again. Is it just a relief bounce or is this the start of the next big move up? Hello and welcome back from yet another absolutely gorgeous backdrop in the Caribbean today. It's been a great week in markets, Bitcoin back over 60K and the fear and greed index back to neutral from extreme fear after an absolute bloodbath towards the end of last week. I think the big question from here is, where do we go next? Was that just a relief bounce after a dip into liquidity, or could this be the start of the next big move up? Let's wrap up the week in Bitcoin. From a technical perspective, we kind of stalled at the $60,000 range over the last couple of days. The next technical point of resistance to the upside would be $61,200. And the next point above that on the daily would be $65,000. That $65,000 level is the price we have to break out of the downtrend that we're in on the daily chart. To the downside, the low that we put in last week at about 52.4 essentially to me represents an excellent opportunity in the short term to have bid into the extreme fear that we had last week. I was looking at the cluster back from February, I believe it was the 19th or thereabouts that we put in that little cluster around about the $52,000 mark. That's essentially the main takeaway from situations like this. If you believe in efficient markets and if you believe that markets are predicated by supply and demand, as I believe that they are, ultimately, logically, you've got to believe that the only time where you're ever going to have an edge in a market is when there is extreme fear. That's where the cliche comes from: buy when there's blood in the streets, be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy, etc., etc. In terms of fear and greed, we're now back up to neutral from extreme fear last week, as I mentioned. The situation we find ourselves now in is essentially markets paused, I believe, taking a breath going up to FOMC on the 18th. So the Fed is expected to cut rates by 25 basis points. That would be the first rate cut in over 4 years. The ECB cut rates at their last meeting earlier in the year. That FOMC can be an incredibly volatile time to trade, which can of course present opportunities if you're ready for them. Generally speaking, I would recommend staying out if you're not. The basic sentiment goes like this: because of efficient markets, if that 25 basis point rate cut is expected, that's priced in already, right? The market is ready for that. If that's surprise to the upside, i.e. a bigger rate cut, that's likely to manifest itself in a bullish reaction in the markets, i.e. investors can get less money in the bond market, therefore they put their money into risk assets like stocks and like Bitcoin. Demand increases and price goes up. If that rate cut is matched at 25 basis points, as is expected, or it falls short of that, the likelihood is that we slip further down. Either way, that's going to be fairly hard to trade in the moment unless you have a plan going into it. For me personally, I'm going to sit out from here. I think prices have bounced back extremely well from where they were at the end of the last week. Now is the kind of time we want to be taking profits if we're being contrarian, like I was alluding to towards the start of the video, and like it generally pays to be. From a long-term perspective, if I wanted to be filling my bags, as I always do, I'm actually looking for that negative result. I think, as a gut instinct, it's more likely that the Fed either meets expectations or exceeds them. I think there's been a lot of fear in the markets lately with increasing likelihood of recession. I think it's likely that the Fed wants to quash those fears as much as possible. Either way, it's hard to get positioned before that September the 18th meeting, but we'll do my best to prepare you as best as possible for that and keep you abreast of any upcoming news on the way. That is all for me for now. Enjoy some shots of the beautiful Caribbean as I get ready for my flight back to the UK and then out to Singapore for Token 2049. As always, not financial advice, just my opinion. Plenty more to come. Catch you in the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye.